All right. Well, my name is Frank. I'm an addict. As you said, my name is Francie, and this is my first time sharing for longer than 3 minutes at a time. Um, well, let's see. I uh, I guess I'll give you a little bit of background. Um, I grew up in a house that didn't believe in doing drugs, and it was it really wasn't even talked about. It was kind of alien for my family, and but I come from a broken home, an abusive father, and it was every day, man. For me growing up, every day it was nonstop abuse from everywhere that I was. I got it at school, I got it at home, I got it from the teachers. If I was anywhere around when a fight broke out, I got it from I got swats for just being around it. But what it actually did for me was it taught me that I wasn't good enough. I was, no matter what I did, no matter how good I tried to be, I was never good enough. And so what I ended up doing was, I tried to hang out with people, tried to fit in, and I never fit in. Um, Even when I got older, I was constantly hanging around people that I thought that I wanted to be, and I would constantly change how I was to be around those people, changing how I dress. If I hung out with gangbangers, I dressed like a gangbanger. If I hung around a bunch of nerds, I dressed like a nerd. It's just the way I was, and well, my dad, he went to prison, and once he was out of the picture, and he was my primary fear. I was scared of him and only him. And once he was out of the picture, I wasn't scared of nobody no more. And I remember, getting involved in a lot of fights. I didn't actually do any drugs or anything until I was about 19. I did do it once or twice, but I never got buzzed or nothing, so I just didn't get involved in it. Um, but I did get involved in a lot of crime and fighting. Ended up getting kicked out of this valley. I went to Palm Desert and got kicked out of school and ended up in a group home. And and I just I mean, for like I don't even know how many years, long time, I was doing nothing but fighting, and I was really angry. If anybody rejected me, I would fight them, and I just all I wanted was to be accepted my whole life, and I just never felt good enough. So I remember the first time that I ever got, well, I didn't get high or nothing, but the first time I ever used was with a couple girls, and they asked me if I want to smoke a joint, and I was like, yeah, and I never did it before. And but I thought that it would be a good way for me to get a shoe in to hook up with one of them, and it wasn't. But and they ended up smoking all of it, and I never even got buzzed or nothing. And I was like, what's the hype about? I didn't get high, I didn't get nothing. I mean, am I feeling it? I mean, what's the deal? And and I remember that was also one of the first times I ever got in trouble with the cops. The same night, we went over. We was in Palm Desert, and we went over and went into a hotel to smoke some more. And security caught us and tried to chase us out, and the cops came, and I don't know, it was a whole mess. But we was running. We didn't want to talk to the cops, and I don't know, a little bit fast forward, so I was in a group home for 4 years, and I was lied to about going in. They told me that I was just going to go for 30 days. So after the 30 days was up, I was running amok. I was like, just causing all sorts of trouble, And, you know, I'm going to do what I'm going to do because I'm getting out of here today. And like I said, I was in there for 4 years. They said, man, you ain't getting out today. And I was like, no, man, that's what they told me. You know, they're like, you know, you're only going to be in here 30 days, no big deal, you know. But they lied to get me in. And then I really started fighting. I was fighting a lot in there. And, you know, breaking doors, busting holes in walls, breaking dishes, you know, whatever I had to do, trying to rile up everybody to try and fight the neighbor kids, you know. I got to a point in my life where I enjoyed hurting people. I enjoyed scaring people. If you had something I wanted, I was going to take it from you. If you had a problem with that, I was going to fight you. And, you know, I was mad at the world because I felt like I got dealt a shitty hand. And I felt like it was their fault, you know. It's not my fault. It's everybody else's fault for not accepting me. It's everyone else's fault for not getting involved when my dad was beating me. You know, it's everybody else's fault, not mine. And that's how I lived my life for a long time. And let's see. I really don't remember a whole lot about the starting of my using. I partied a lot everywhere. I partied all over the country. I went wherever I could get it. I mean, all the way to Virginia. And I was the kind of friend that, and I thought I was cool, you know, because I would drop everything and bail on wherever I lived just to go 2,500 miles away to go get loaded. You know, and my friends would give me props about that. You know, they're like, oh man, Frank's cool, man. He'll just pack his bags. He'll be here in 2 days. You know, and I thought it was cool, and it wasn't. You know, in my addiction, I managed to get myself kicked out of my grandma's house forever. I'm never allowed there. I was only there 3 weeks. 3 weeks, and I managed to get myself kicked out for life. You know, and I was always, and still through the whole thing, I was constantly trying to belong somewhere. My mom's family didn't like me, so I figured that my dad's family would accept me. I mean, they're nuts, I'm nuts. So I figured, you know, I fit right in. Well, I didn't fit right in because they wanted me on meds, and I refused to take meds. I didn't want meds. I wanted to self-medicate. I didn't want meds. And, you know, and my uncle was a mean son of a bitch. And he would constantly talk smack. And, you know, we'd all be getting drunk. And, you know, in my insane thinking, I would think that, you know, and he was a mean drunk, but I would think that, well, maybe if I go out and buy a case, he'll be cool. No, he just got worse, you know, and then I got worse. And it just kept carrying on from there until I got booted. And when my friends came to pick me up, I thought it was the coolest thing because they all came strapped. You know, it was in a bad neighborhood in Norfolk. And they all came strapped, and I thought it was cool. And, but at a certain point, you know, my using stopped. It ceased being fun. It started to be routine. All I wanted to do was get loaded. I didn't care who it was with. You know, and I remember multiple times hiding my shit. I remember doing that. You know, I would get it and get paranoid because I was using so much, and then I would hide it. And the next day, me and my friends couldn't find it, and they would have to go buy more, and I'd be looking for it the whole time. And then I'd call him and be like, hey, man, I found it, man. And he's like, yeah, but I just bought some, you know. And he's like, don't be hiding my shit no more. You know, and, let's see. So anyway, I moved all over the country, and I ended up I ended up going out to Vegas. I was living North Las Vegas for, I don't know, half a year or something before I wore out my welcome there. And pretty much everywhere that I ever went, I wore out my welcome, and I didn't want to be there. I don't want to be here. You know, I got a lot of history in this valley, and I do not like my history. And for anybody that thinks that you can't have any worse of a reputation than you have, I have a bad reputation now. And you know, I used to think it was cool and you know, and all of that, but I don't know, whatever. But I ended up in Vegas, and I started messing with hallucinogenics, and I ended up getting something called salvia and messing with that. And I remember looking it up online, and I wanted to see what the trip was like beforehand, and I couldn't find any videos that looked legit, you know. So I was like, I told my friends, I was like, record it. Now I got a video of it, you know, and it's, I mean, I thought it was funny, and everybody I showed, they laughed or whatever, but they weren't laughing with me, you know. They were laughing at me. And that was just, it was another, what is it, insanity, doing the same thing over and over and expecting different results. You know, it's exactly what I was doing, you know. I figured, you know, that if they could laugh at the video, that they would like me more or something, you know, and they were just like, come on, man, we got to get this guy loaded on something else, you know. And I mean, I was a party favor. You know, I was entertainment for their high. And I was just, I never really knew friendship, never really knew true friendship ever until I came into the program. And even now, I have trouble accepting people. I mean, if somebody does something I don't like, that old behavior, it's right there, real close. It don't take much to take it out, you know. You constantly got to check yourself, try and stay in control. At least I do. And anyway, so I was living out in Indio, you know, and I had my own apartment. It was a shithole, you know. There was roaches everywhere. I hated that place. And instead of telling management the real reason I didn't want to be there, which was the roaches and waking up with roaches crawling on my face. Instead of telling them the real reason, I told them that I was scared, that I was being threatened in the neighborhood, and it wasn't true. But I figured they would let me get out of my lease, you know, if I was being threatened or whatever. And it was all bullshit, you know. And well, when they didn't let me out of it, you know, I used to let homeless people come and hang out with me because I was so hard up for a friend. I just wanted somebody to be around me, you know. I mean, I'd watched all my movies. I only had like 6 movies, and I watched all of them way too much. You know, I could just say the whole thing as it was playing, you know. So I started letting these homeless guys come and hang out. And, of course, hanging out, you know, they would bring bottles of vodka or whatever. You know, whatever they could get that was like $2. And at the time, I wasn't drinking, I wasn't smoking, I wasn't doing drugs, I wasn't doing anything. But see, the thing is that fear controlled my life, and I was afraid constantly. So fear would. And see, I keep forgetting stuff. I'm forgetting right now. I'm sitting here trying to remember what the hell I was saying, and I don't remember. Yeah. But anyway, so, but yeah, fear controlled my life, and I let these dudes come and hang or whatever. And but I started asking this one cat. I said, hey man, what's it like living out there in the desert? You know. Because I was playing it over in my head. I was like, well, I like camping. It can't be that bad, you know. I can go. And a couple weeks later, me and this dude are carrying my couch down the street. I wasn't even on drugs at the time. I'm carrying my couch 1.5 miles down the street to go live in the desert. in Comfort in the summer. And so, you know, and when I got there, you know, he lived in like some bushes or something, and I didn't think anything of it, you know. And he started showing me his knife collection, all his axes and swords and shit laying around, and I'm like, oh man, cool, we're gonna be safe, you know. And I ended up meeting this dude that lived in the camp next to his, and I remember he was always smoking that shit. And now the thing about meth was I hated it. I hated doing dope, but I could not stop doing it. And that's when I really found out what true addiction is, because I couldn't eat, I couldn't sleep, I couldn't do anything. I had nightmares all the time, hallucinations all the time, but I could not stop doing it. And well, I had already done it a couple times before, and I had always said when I had stopped doing it that I would never do it again. But temptation's a pain in the ass, you know, and it's there. It's 10 feet away. And I can hear him talking and stuff, and in the back of my head is, well, that's how I can be accepted. So you're trying to get accepted again, and trying to make new friends and stuff. And so I went over there, and I said, let me hit that. And dude was a dealer, homeless, and he was a dealer. And he hooked me up, and I don't know how long months went by. I mean, I was loaded the whole time, and I was smoking his shit. And I remember being out in the desert, and one night sitting in the camp, he had blankets for walls and ceiling on telephone poles and stuff, and I remember looking through the blanket, and there was a bush right there, and I remember I was seeing bush people. You know, I don't know if you guys can relate to that, but I was seeing people through the bushes. People with guns, people wearing camouflage. I believed the military was coming after me, you know, and I believed it, you know, and I was scared, man, and I was like, what are they doing, you know? And I remember seeing this guy shimmying on the ground, you know, you see him in boot camp shimmying around on their forearms, and I seen this dude doing that, and I kept telling this guy, I said, man, there's guys out there, man, there's guys out there, and he gave me a scope, and he said, look through that, man, there ain't nobody there, and I looked through it, and I could see him closer. You know, and I'm like, dude, they're there, man. That guy just went over the fence, you know, and I'm like, oh man, they're after me. And he says, yeah, man, the military's after you. You know, they thought I was nuts. And he always had his lantern. He had a lantern on, but his was the only one on that night. And I didn't understand why. And I kept telling him, turn off the light, man. They're gonna shoot me. They're gonna shoot me. Turn off the light. Well, he wouldn't turn off the light. And about 2 hours after tripping like that, I realized what was going on. There was about 60 homeless in that desert area. They were all congregating in the main camp, which was right behind ours. And they were over there watching a movie. They were watching me, tripping, bad. And they were throwing rocks in the bushes and scaring me, you know. And well, I ended up leaving there for a short time, and ended up in the what we call the jungle. It's out in Coachella, and some tall trees, and it looks a lot like I always want to call it the Partridge Family, but it's the I think it's Family Robinson or something like that, where they live in a tree house. And that's what it looked like. The whole thing looked like a tree house. And I was out there doing shit out there. And when I came back, and I had met some girl, and I hooked up with her. And when I came back, found out that it was one of the guys, one of the dealers in that area. It was his ex-old lady. And I didn't know. Nobody told me. And I went to apologize to him for it, you know. I mean, even though I was out of my head and everything, I always wanted to be accepted. So I would put myself in harm's way to try and be accepted. And I went to apologize, and the dude had his hand on a blade. And they were telling me to get away from him, don't get too close. And so once I noticed what he was doing, I was like, oh shit, you know. And I backed off, but there was 4 of them that I needed to apologize to. I felt like, not just the one dude, it was him and his friends. And the first 3 all had their hands on blades. And so the last dude, I was paranoid at that point, you know. I knew everybody had a knife or something, and so I got about an 8-inch shard of glass and wrapped it with wire tape or something, you know, black tape, and wrapped it with that, put that in my pocket, and went and apologized to the last dude. Well, that last dude, I guess they told him that I had that on me, and you know, to me, all I was doing exactly what they did. It was like protection. But to them, they didn't see it that way. I was wrong. And to them, I was more wrong now because now I had a weapon. So instead of coming at me, you know, with the knives or whatever, one of them decided to go get a pistol. And he came back and he tried taunting me to go after him or whatever, and I wouldn't. I saw it was like a little 6-shooter or something, but I seen it. And I'm telling all of you this because that night was the scariest night of my life. Because I was out there, and there was a lot of homeless there. They were all getting loaded, and none of them were there to help me. They were all there because they wanted to see somebody get murdered. And I was the one. And the dude that had the pistol had told this dope dealer guy that was smoking me out all the time, he told him to get him and the 2 other people that were in the campsite and leave so the guy could come in and execute me. And I was scared, man. I mean, what am I going to do? It was like a kind of horseshoe. It was a big 20-foot wall all the way around the campsite, and the only way to get out was through all these people. And not only that, but I also had to walk by the gunman's campsite to get out. And I ended up hanging around there till like 3 in the morning, and ended up, the guy told me to follow him out. He was going to walk me out. And that's when I felt like I had, like, you know, kind of like a spiritual awakening, you know. I mean, I'd always believed in a higher power. I just, you know, tuned him out, and didn't want to deal with him, didn't want anybody to be in control of my life but me. And so what I ended up doing was the dude tried to leave. He was walking me out, but he was walking me out in the middle of the desert in the dark. And for whatever reason, I felt like he was trying to screw me over. I mean, I was paranoid as hell. So I don't know if it was God talking to me or what, but I decided not to go with him. Instead, I went the other way by myself. And he looked pissed that I wouldn't go with him. You know, and I ended up walking out of there. And I did get out, and nothing happened. And but it was scary for me. It was really scary. And you know, for somebody being afraid their whole life and being willing, you know, I thought for sure I was going to die that night. I thought for sure the guy was going to kill me or torture me or something, you know. And I had never really talked to God too much, you know, so I just asked him to not let me feel too much, you know. And, you know, let me go out quick. Anyway, so from that moment on, I ended up moving in with some dude. I was clean for a little bit. I didn't go in the program. This isn't my first time going to meetings, but it is my first time trying to work the program. The first time I would go to meetings because I wanted to find a connect. I wanted to find somebody willing to relapse. I wanted to have free cookies and donuts and coffee, cigarettes. And, but I ended up, yeah, I forgot. That happens a lot. But anyway, oh yeah. So right before I came into the program or whatever, I remember this guy. He was getting loaded, and he was getting loaded on wine and psych meds, and I wasn't getting loaded on anything, and I wanted to get loaded like he was because he was tripping, and I wanted to trip. Well, he gave me something, and I don't know what it is to this day, but I did a lot of it. And the next day, I got arrested in Palm Springs, at Palm Springs Liquor. I was talking to this dude on the phone, and he's like, "What are you doing?" I was like, "Man, I can't do this anymore. I can't do it anymore. The voices, I'm seeing things that ain't there. I'm scared to cross the street. I can't do it anymore. I'm going to commit suicide by cop." Well, he had the cops on the phone, and I said that, and the cops came and surrounded me and everything, drew down the guns on me, and and I was standing in the parking lot drinking a chocolate milk because I'm thinking, you know, what's the one thing that I want before I die? Well, I wanted a chocolate milk. I don't know why, you know. But I decided to drink a chocolate milk. Cops came, drew down guns. "What are you doing here?" "I'm drinking a chocolate milk." "What are you doing here?" And they said, "You got a machete?" I always had a machete. And I turned around, and I thought it was right by me. I mean, I was paranoid. I never let my bag away from me. Well, my bag was like 50 yards away. I said, "Yeah, it's over there." And they arrested me. And from then on, for 4 months, I was in and out of psych. In and out, in and out. I would get out, and I'd go right back. Get out, go right back. And I was fighting staff in psych. Because they were bringing up things, issues that I didn't want to deal with, talking to me about my dad, talking to me about my family, and I would fight them for it. Throw chairs, one guy I tried to spear with it was a weight height machine, and it was broken on top, and I tried to stab him with it. Messed up. But, you know, anyway, I ended up meeting some woman in one of those psych places, and I thought it was a good idea to hook up with her. And I did, and we ended up moving into a place in, you know, out in Desert Hot Springs, and and she kept on, she was going to meetings. I lived with her for a couple months, and she was going to meetings, and she kept trying to get me to go to meetings with her. And I didn't want to go to meetings. You know, I just wanted the voices to stop so I can go get loaded again without tripping. So I ended up going, my first meeting, this time around, I ended up going to a meeting just to get away from her. She kept asking me to go to meetings, and I didn't want to go. So I went and just sat outside on a rock and smoked cigarettes, picking up butts off the ground, smoking them. And as soon as this dude walks by me, he's a homeless guy, cool cat, been in recovery for years, walks by me and he says, "You know, it works better if you go inside." Because I was always outside. And as soon as everybody went in, I would go get a couple 40s or something and go home. And then lie to her, of course, and say, "Oh yeah, I went to a meeting." And but the first actual meeting that I went to, I seen somebody that I had been looking for like 6 years because I wanted to hurt him. Dude got me kicked out of a, well, see, I'm sitting here, see, this, I always want to blame other people. So I'm sitting here saying that dude got me kicked out of a mission, but that's not what happened. What happened was I was fraternizing, and I got me kicked out by fraternizing. And but I blamed him, and I've been wanting to see him. I wanted to bump into him or whatever. And when I seen him, dude apologized in front of the whole room, and it blew me away. What the hell? This is weird. Why are you apologizing to me? And not only that, but by apologizing to me, he pointed to me and he's like, I got to make amends to this dude right here. I don't remember what I did, but this dude says that I did something to him. And he says, so I'm sorry. It was hard. I think, and I'm somebody that don't like to show any kind of emotions around anybody except anger. I don't want to show sadness. I don't want to show any kind of weakness around anybody. And so when I started to cry, it enraged me. And I left. And but I kept coming back, because I had felt something in the rooms that I hadn't felt anywhere. I felt, I'm not a talker. I don't like to share. I don't like doing what I'm doing right now. But I'm doing it because I know in order for me to get better, to be who I want to be, I need to put myself into situations that make me uncomfortable. I have to do what I don't want to do. So I'm here. And I go to meetings, and I don't like to share at meetings. Before tonight, I didn't share for 10 months at all. I go to meetings and I just sit there. I'm a shadow at the meetings. If you don't talk to me and I can laugh and listen to you share and laugh at your stories and stuff, I had a good day. It was a good meeting, as long as I don't have to share. And it's funny, because every time I share, I feel like $1 million afterwards. I feel great, no matter what I did, no matter what I said, no matter how much I embarrassed myself, I feel good afterwards. And it's all pretty new to me to do that, But I decided early on in my recovery, I decided that I was just going to do this until I could hook up with some of my homies and go get loaded again. That I was just going to fake it. And they say fake it till you make it. Well, I wasn't faking it till I make it. I was faking it till I made it back to where I was from. I didn't want to get clean. My dream in life, it's funny, a lot of people's dream in life is to be successful and have cars and have a wife and all this stuff. My dream was to OD. I wanted to die from it because I felt like I would die happy. I would die, even if it was an illusion, I would die feeling like I was accepted, that I died around my friends. I didn't really have friends. And so, I kept going to meetings and about 2 weeks in, I was talking to this cat outside a meeting and he's like, you got a sponsor yet? And I was like, no. And he's like, you gonna get one? I said, yeah, but I heard that you gotta window shop for a sponsor. You gotta listen to him speak first, and then and then you ask him to be your sponsor. And this cat, he peer pressured me into talking to Carl. He's like, man, see that guy right there, the big bald guy? That guy's a good sponsor, man. Go talk to him. And I was like, man, I don't want to talk to him. I even heard him speak. He's like, go talk to him. And I was like, I don't want to. And he just kept saying it until I said, fine, man, I'll go talk to him. And I went and talked to him. Dude was my sponsor, And and I don't know, I in my own mind, I think I put a lot of stress on our sponsor-sponsee relationship because I'm stubborn. I don't want to take direction. I want to do what I want to do. I want to do what makes me comfortable, and he wants to get me out of my comfort zone. And he's shown me several things that I don't like, but that are the right way, Like in my first year, he told me that I couldn't 13-step anybody. And he's like, no hooking up with any girls or guys, whatever. He's like, no hooking up, until you get a year. And then he told me some shit that just threw me through the loop. He's like, because you're a newcomer for your first year. And then he said, actually, you're a newcomer for 7 years. And I'm like, oh man, don't say that shit to me, man. You know how messed up in the head I am. Stop saying shit like that to me, you know. But I didn't do it. You know, I wanted to. I tried, but I was very impressionable, I guess. And there's no other way to say it. You know, it took me a long time to feel normal. It took me a long time to kind of feel like myself. You know, I was scared, man. I was scared that I was going to be that guy walking down the street talking to himself for the rest of my life. You know, I was called a Nazi a lot when I was walking around because, you know, there's a movie called Cinderella Man, and the guy in the movie, he walks around real stiff in the movie, and he's constantly he's got some type of mental issue, but he's constantly walking around stiff, and that was the way I was. I walked around real stiff because I was so scared. I didn't want to move, but I had to. I had to do things like I smoke, so I had to go get cigarettes, you know, and I had to walk out in public hearing, you know, those voices and laughter and everyone that I didn't know leaning out their car window and yelling Nazi at me. They might have said something else. That ain't what I heard. I heard Nazi. You know, I was hearing a lot of bad shit. You know, and I was seeing a lot of bad stuff. I mean, I thought people were gunning after me. People I didn't even know coming after me with Glocks and stuff, trying to kill me. I was scared, you know. And when I would go into these psych units and stuff, I would tell the doctor or whatever that I was that people were trying to kill me. So what does he do? He diagnoses me. He says I'm schizoaffective. I'm not schizoaffective. I said, oh yeah, because we live in Happy Land where nobody gets murdered, you know. But anyway, I always had to, I don't know, I had to accept that I didn't know what was good for me in my life because what I did that I thought was good for me wasn't working. You know, like I said, I wanted to die from this disease. I wanted to die from it. And I never believed it was a disease either. I'm like, this isn't a disease. You know, when I first came into the program, I told my friends about it, and they were like, oh man, you joined a cult. And I'm like, no, it's not a cult. And they're like, no, it's a cult, man. By every definition, it's a cult. And I don't like learning nothing, so I just, whatever. But, you know, it's there was a lot of things that I didn't have that I never thought that I would get ever again because I screwed up so bad. I screwed over so many people. I thought that I would never, ever be able to be around my family, my mother, my sisters, my stepdad. I didn't think I'd ever be able to be around them. I screwed them over so bad. And today, I have a relationship with them, and it's tight. It's a good relationship. And I get to be an uncle to my niece and my nephews. I get to go on trips and go and see them, and get to hang out with them. And you know, I got twin nephews that live out in Texas, and they climb on me like I'm a jungle gym. You know, and I get to do that kind of stuff today. I also get to accept things that happen in my life. Since I've been in recovery, and I'll have 3 years and 4 days. But since I've been in recovery, I've dealt with lots of death. You know, a lot of people that I knew in the program that went back out and died, and or people that I didn't even know. I mean, and it's crazy, you know. I just heard about a woman that died last night. I didn't know her, but I feel horrible, you know. I feel bad for the people that knew her, you know. And there's people in the program that were mean to me, you know. I remember one dude, he came up to me and he said, I said, hey man, what's going on? And he's like, oh man, this is my world, you just live in it. And I'm like, what the fuck's that mean? And, but see, the thing is, and it was before I came into recovery, but one day I was looking in the mirror and I hated who I was. I didn't like being this angry, hateful person, and I didn't know that it was just a mask. I didn't know that. I just didn't like who it was. So I decided that I was going to change, and it took a long time by myself to change. And I was doing drugs the whole time, but what I ended up doing was, having all that anger and everything. It was hard, real hard at first, because when people would, call me a bitch or whatever, when I would walk away from them when they were trying to fight me, and I'd walk away, and they're like, look at me scared, and I would want to fight them even more. Not just fight him, I wanted to kill him, and but he, I decided, I had to make that choice, I had to make that choice that I didn't want to be that person, that I wanted to be somebody else. I didn't know who, I didn't know what I wanted, but I just didn't want to be that, And it gets easier, walking away and finding out ways to deal with anger and stuff. Anger is a big part of my story. Like I said, I used to love it. Anger was power. I didn't have to be afraid because I would scare others. It like camouflaged it. I didn't feel like I was scared if I scared you. I was just saying tonight that if I could scare you and scare your friends without doing anything to you physically, that it was a good day. That's fucked up. That's a messed up way of seeing things. At least to me it is, But anyway, what? Damn. She just showed me how much time, man. I was tripping on that because on the way here I was like, man, I don't think I can talk for 40 minutes. No way, man, because they always tell us in the rooms, they're like, 3 minutes only. And if you go past, it's like you just slap somebody in the face. So, but, I don't know. It's a good day to be clean. Feel accepted. A lot of people, they're like, oh man, my brother, I love you. I'm like, yeah, okay, whatever, I still have trouble expressing love for anybody. And, they say take it one day at a time. A lot of the time in my recovery, I've taken it a day at a time, a minute at a time, a second at a time. And when I can't take it a second at a time, I take a nap. Because usually I'm worn out. And I have to lay down, because I don't want to do what I want to do. And if you can understand that, I live in a sober living. I like it. I like structure. I never came to a place like this, but I went to rehab. So anyway, I don't know what else to say. So you guys, I'm glad that you guys got to hear me speak for the first time for 40 minutes.
Good job.